we're still talking about authenticity, and I'm revealing some of my journey from California to Texas in my decision, very spontaneous, seemingly decision to move from California to the state of Texas, and with nothing, absolutely nothing, just the money that I had that was actually given to me. I had some of my own, but very little at that point. My cat, my clothes, and I was getting ready to leave from Bakersfield to a tiny little town called Needles that was still in California. And I had to kind of take my journey through segments because, like I said, I had a very hard time driving long distances and feeling okay. And I was concerned about my kitty because she was old. And I had to go through into the area of Mojave. And before you reach the city of Mojave, you actually enter into the desert lands first. And I think Needles was probably maybe 4 hours from Bakersfield. I could be wrong, but I did arrive there early before check-in time, and I had a hotel reserved. I did that the night before. I always made sure that I had a reservation or someone knew that I was coming, or I would switch it around if I, made my journey change or there was an alternative. But we were entering into Needles, and I was before checkout time or check-in time. And I was starving. I was just absolutely starving. I was eating road food, and I thought I just really want a meal. And it was okay for me to leave my cat in the room and get comfortable. And I kid you not, this room that I had, it just really was unexpected. It was so adorable. It was so darn adorable. I just absolutely loved it. It was right off of the highway. I didn't want to go through any deviations, into the city or any of that. I just wanted to stay off the highway right there, knowing that the very next morning I could climb right back onto the highway. But I was so hungry, and I was hungry for something authentic. So I looked around and I found a Chinese food place, right? And I went in and I got this really great bowl of Chinese food and decided that I went back and checked on my cat, but I decided that I really needed to spend some time outside. I felt very cooped up in my car, and we were in desert area. It was, Mojave area, and it was windy. It was December. It wasn't warm. It was actually almost felt like springtime in a way, or maybe a part of fall. And I went and I just really thought, and I considered, and I'm eating Chinese food, and the wind is blowing through my hair. And I felt like, oh my gosh, I am just such a mess. And I'm so meticulous sometimes about, making sure that my hair is done and all of those things. None of that was applicable at this time. I was authentically me. And there I was, and I felt this whisper inside. Everything's gonna be okay. It's all okay. Everything is okay. Don't be concerned. Just wait. Watch. Envision. See what's going to happen. And I, at one point was, I looked over and I saw tumbleweeds going across the highway. And I looked over there and I thought, I've never seen a tumbleweed before, except in movies. Not a real one, that was just going across the highway as trucks were going by and cars were going by. And, there I was, in the desert area, and there were cactuses around and all of that. I had never really seen a cactus just growing naturally, aside from going to Home Depot and getting a cactus plant. I had never really seen an actual cactus. And I thought, these are fantastic. I mean, there are enormous cactuses in the desert. And after we left that hotel, me and my cat, and got into the car for our next place, our next destination. I could not believe it, but we were coming out of California. We're entering into Arizona, and the cactuses take on a whole other form. I looked out from one end to the other side of the highway. I kid you not, both sides. Cactuses lined up as far as you could see. And I later learned for these giant cactuses to get as big as they are, they have to be at least 100 years old. And I was like, wow, that is the most amazing thing. I cannot believe I have never seen this. I've never seen this. And it was a beautiful morning. I had stopped and got breakfast that I could eat on the way, and I'm eating and I'm looking from side to side, and I'm like, wow, this is so incredible. I mean, how great is this? And then I got to a point where I was going to enter into a mountain range, and of course there were signs along the way, and I had my GPS coming through my phone, and it was announced that I was entering into the area where I would be going through the Tehachapi Mountains, and I did not know what that meant. I had never seen the Tehachapi Mountains, and there I am driving and driving, and all of a sudden I turn the bend, and there they are. I see massive desert on each side, these beautiful cactuses that survive with living water inside of them in the desert, because that's what they're meant to do. That's what they're strong enough to do, survive. And I thought, wow, I'm surviving because I have living water in me and I'm surviving. But looking out in front of me and seeing the Tehachapi Mountains in front of me, I started to absolutely weep. And I kid you not, the energy that came from just the desert and the mountain ranges, because I pick up on everything. I'm intuitive, I'm an empath, I feel energy everywhere. I felt the energy and the strength of these mountains. And as I started to go through the mountain range, the traffic started to accumulate and slow down a little bit. But I was weaving in and out, and I started to see some of the elevation and all of that. And I was like trees on each side. And it was the most beautiful sight I think I had ever seen. And I had absolutely nothing. I had nothing really to my name except these things. And I thought, this is me. I'm strong like those cactuses that are in the desert. I have living water because I have God inside of me. And I survive the desert lands because of that water. And I'm as strong as those mountains, and I'm so much bigger than I even give myself credit for. I think that I'm this little ant on, the side of the road going through the desert sands, or a little gecko or lizard. But I'm not that. I'm bigger than that. And that's what we are. Our authentic self is so much bigger than that. So much bigger than we think we are. And I looked up at the sky as I went through, and I thought, that is massive. How beautiful the clouds are, and fluffy as they went through the mountains. And I even went through some of the clouds. I thought, so this is what it's like to go through the clouds and feel like I'm that tall and that big and that high and that awesome and that strong. And coming out of those mountains, it was just amazing. I went into, more desert area, and along my journey, I made several stops along the way. I took at least 8 days to make a 3-day journey. I was like the Israelites in the Bible almost, They took 40 years to go through a journey that could have taken them a week. But there I was. And I took my time. I took 8 days, and I was being expected, and there were people that checked on me and all of those things, but mostly I was just driving. And the things that I saw, and I went through crowded cities, I went through Phoenix, which was exorbitantly crowded. And coming out of those areas, I felt the energy that came from Arizona and the beauty of the sunsets and into New Mexico. And, I just felt that beauty of traveling through another state, seeing and witnessing other people, having authentic Tex-Mex that was coming up in my journey, and going through El Paso. It started up on the northern side of the journey, going through Highway 40, and at one point I cut all the way down through the desert on a small, tiny little road, kind of like a deviation down to Highway 10, where I actually bordered and crossed through Mexico at some point. But there was only me and a gasoline truck on that entire road for 100 miles. And Tasha and I had to get out at one point and do things that human people do and cats do. But it was an interesting moment, I gotta tell you that. But we made it through that area, and we eventually crossed over the border into Texas, but it wasn't until at least the 7th day. I took 1 day of rest and just decided to be, and had beautiful plate of Mexican food as Tasha waited back for me in the motel room, and just kind of charting my journey for the next day, doing laundry, things like that. And I just relaxed. And I think that I slept probably more than I ever slept, and better than I ever slept in my entire life. And I thought, this is amazing. I'm taking care of myself. This is me. I read when I want to read, and I go on the computer, and I charted some of my journey and posted it. And the rest of the time, I took a walk, I did my laundry. I was just me. And I thought, how long has it been that I've just been me, my authentic self, who I am, alone with me, myself, and I, and God? I've spent that time, meditative time, but I always went back to taking care of everyone else. And this was a time for me that was so charted out in my space, in my journey, to just be me, my authentic self. And I found out things about myself that I never knew. I found out that I am an extremely strong woman. I looked at all of the things that I have actually come through. People have said you're strong. People have said, a lot of different things, but I had to know it. I had to know that no matter what, I could survive. I could survive and be okay. And this was something I didn't know. It's not that I didn't live by myself at times, because I did. It's not that I didn't have alone times, because I did, but I always identified myself by what I did and who I cared for and all of those things, like I said. But this was me. And I thought, this is a time that I'm going through a new open door, and to find out just exactly who Jenine is. And it doesn't have to be Reverend Jenine or Dr. Jenine or any of those. And not identify myself by my last name, but identify myself by who I am, truly. And I really did a lot of thinking at that time and receiving. What is it that I really like and love? What is it that I want to be? What is my gift to this world? What is the next facet of my journey? I've raised my children, they're adults, I have grandchildren. What's the next facet? And I had to cry a lot. I went through dust storms where I could literally not see. I went through rainstorms, just flash flooding, where the visibility was zero. and I still made it through because there weren't a lot of cars on the highway. Not really. I made it through different towns and different cities that I stopped in along the way because I had to make stops. I had to eat, all of those things. I made it through to my destination. And my life here in Texas began that day that I got out of the car, exhausted, that I pulled my cat out, probably exhausted, that I looked back at my car and everything that was in it, and I thought, this is it. This is it. From now on, this is me. And whatever I knew I was going to have to work through, and there has been a lot, eventually I knew my authentic self was what I was going to present, no matter what I was doing. Whether I was giving to someone, whether I was being a life coach, an empowerment coach, whether I was doing hypnotherapy, which is something I love to do because it changes people. I love to watch that change. But whatever it is that I do, it is always mindful within me that this is my life. This is my journey. This is my pathway. This is my gift. I am a gift to the rest of the world. And that's what you are. So I know I've gone through all of this story to tell you that there is an authentic you that's inside of you. And it's not like anyone else. And for most of your life, willing to bet, you've identified yourself by what you do, who you take care of, and who's around you. And sometimes we end up identifying ourselves by what people expect of us. Expectations are horrible sometimes because sometimes we just can't live up to them. Sometimes we do live up to them and we really shouldn't because we let ourselves go. And I don't mean, physically on the outside. We let go of what really sparks us in our life. And we deserve what sparks us in our life, what really, really brightens our face. That thing that just shows the spirit around us and within us and that comes through us. The human tenacity to live, to breathe, to keep on going. Have you ever thought about your heartbeat? When I had a lot of anxiety in my life, I used to take my stethoscope and I would put the other part, on my heart, and I would literally listen to the sound of my own heartbeat because it calmed the anxiety in me. Maybe it's a memory from the womb, I don't know, but it worked. And I thought to myself at one point, what an amazing thing. Our heart just goes, and we're not always conscious of how it works or why it's working or that it works. But we don't really think about it that much. But it causes everything inside of our body to circulate. And there is a soulful heart in every one of us. And when we find and tap into the heartbeat of our very soul, it circulates everything in life. Everything. And it causes everything in life to circulate the right way, to bring nutrients to every facet of our life, mind, body, and spirit. It's so important to know this and to know who you are authentically and where that place is. Listen to the sound of your soulful heartbeat is what I'm saying. Listen to the sound of your physical heartbeat. I can't talk today. What's wrong? But listen to the sound of your soulful heartbeat because it is speaking to you loud and clear. Does it want to tell you how strong you are? Does it want to tell you how amazing you are, how much bigger you are than you give yourself credit for, how your presence is what is important? Not necessarily what you do for other people. Yes, that's a part of it, but what is the main importance of your life? You're a human being, not a human doing. Doesn't mean we don't do things, but I think you get and understand. I really do. I'm just feeling it. I'm feeling the vibe there. You're getting it. This is my hope and my prayer for you. As you're manifesting, as you're thinking of those things that you really want in your life, what's freedom to you? Who are you really? What is the beat of your soulful heart? What is your true identity? Write it down. Write it as long as you could possibly write. Just keep on letting it flow and write it down, speak it out, meditate on it. What is your authentic self speaking to you? What's your pathway? What's your journey? What's your gift to this world? Without identifying yourself according to other people. Just you, yourself, and your Creator who dwells within. I hope that I've given you something to think about. I haven't told all of my story. I don't think I need to make this point, but I have to say, I've been in Texas for 7 years now. It's a time of completion, the number 7. This is my 7th year. It means something else is probably most likely on the horizon. A new, authentic part of me is on the horizon. And I'm so excited for that part. It's not that I don't get down, not that I don't cry. Sometimes our tears water the ground inside of us. The ground becomes porous and it becomes a growth place or a place of growth where seeds that are planted can be germinated and grow. So plant some seeds too as you seek out your authentic self and let everything around you speak to you. What are the things that are speaking to you and what are they saying? Without listening to people, listen to what's around you. What's the heartbeat and the pulse of this world? And what's the heartbeat and the pulse of your soul? It's deep, but when you find it, you'll cry. And you'll think, what did I do all of this time without understanding this? So, I hope I've given you something to think about. I'm going to be clicking off here very soon in just a moment, but I don't want to do it without saying God bless you. I'm loving you from here. And whatever you do, be good, be kind to yourself. And out of that kindness flows a river that goes out to everyone else naturally. You don't have to strive for anything. Everything that you have runs through you and to you, and it's like a cycle that continues, and it's easy. Jesus had said, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. Isn't that amazing? Some of the words of Jesus, just when they come back after you experience some things, they're just amazing. But life is easy. We make it harder. And a lot of times it's because we have identified ourselves in a way that's not authentic to who we are. People might think you're crazy when you back up and you really seek things out, but it doesn't matter because you're not. You're growing, right? Amen. We're all growing. I'll talk to you real soon. God bless you once again, and I love you. And I hope to see you in the next video.